Inscryption is one of my favorite games of all time, and I mean that. It took me a little bit of gameplay to truly appreciate this game for what it is, but once it clicked, I was hooked. What seemed like a shallow card based game at first is actually an in depth, story rich game with many secrets to find and lots of challenges to beat. When I first loaded up Inscryption, I was met with some awesome music, a title screen, and no idea what I got myself into. And then I heard a voice, and it says, "Okay, time to figure out what's on this thing." Who was speaking? Was that my character? I didn't even realize there'd be voice acting in this simple card game. I start off by clicking the continue button. Why can't I choose a new game? Have I been here before? The game loads and we get this eerie creaking sound and we're met with a pair of eyes. He simply states, "Another challenger. It's been ages." This is a tutorial of sorts where the game teaches you the basic mechanics and introduces objects like the bell to end your turn, the scales with teeth on them. Yes, teeth. They keep score of damage. And then the idea of sacrificing cards for blood to play more powerful cards. I admit, I was intrigued, but I've never really been a huge fan of card games, especially in the digital format. But the art style, the sound effects, the creepy environment, all of it was enough to get me to carry on, and I'm very glad I did. Once you beat the battle tutorial, our opponent Leshy rolls out a map where your little figurine travels the map towards the impending battles and bosses. This is the core roguelike part of the game. You choose your path, you get upgrades, you get better card choices, totems, items, and much more along the way. This is how you learn strategies to make a better deck. You can get card synergies, and you can learn the sigil mechanics. Sigils give cards different powers. There's, for example, flying, where you attack the enemy health directly above all of the other enemies. There's also undying, where the card returns to your hand after it perishes, and many, many more to learn. But as good as the first act is in and of itself, it was the mystery that really kept me coming back. Eventually, you're able to stand up from the table and explore around the cabin that we're locked inside. You'll find many things to interact with, and some that just add to the mystery. There's skulls with collectible teeth, a locked safe, a cuckoo clock, puzzle shelves, a painting with cards on it, and more. Eventually, Leslie instructs you to pick up a candle holder with 2 candles. These represent your lives during the game. Lose once, and a candle goes out. Lose twice, and it's over. And death isn't permanent in this game, in a way anyway. For the challenger in the game, it is, but every time you perish, you get an opportunity to play as someone new, a new challenger. And each death, you get to make a death card, where you can combine attack, defense, and sigils from other cards you've picked up along the way. So each run, you become stronger with a chance to find these cards along the beaten path, even though our challenger in the game perishes. Eventually, I found the rulebook, and this gave me the code to the safe. So there is more to find in this game. Interesting, I thought to myself. And I just wanted to know more. I wanted to find every little secret. But where this game really gets interesting are the talking cards. You meet a stoat card, and he starts in your hand, and he tells you that Leshy's completely insane, and that he keeps the stoat around to watch it suffer. Who was this Leshy character, and why are we actually here? There are other characters like a wolf and a stink bug that also talk to you and encourage you to keep playing, and they encourage you to beat the game. As I played on, I beat some fights, I lost some battles, and started over many times, but I was enthralled. I needed to continue on to see where the story goes, to see why we're here, why Leshy's doing this, and why our talking cards are encouraging us to stop him. As you progress through the first act, you'll fight 3 bosses: the Prospector, the Angler, and the Trapper. At first, I found the bosses to be quite difficult, as each has their own unique ability and Phase 2 power. For example, the Angler steals one of your cards every other turn, so you must strategically play squirrels so he doesn't take your more powerful cards. And then once you beat his first life, he spawns chum buckets in front of every one of your cards. And if you attack these, a powerful card lays in wait, the Great White. This required me to think outside the box and learn not to attack the chum buckets or to use a sigil like bifurcated attack to attack around them. But these lessons were learned over many, many failed attempts at each boss. With each one, I felt like I was learning more and the strategy was building, and eventually I was able to overcome them. The Prospector is another boss, and I hated him at first. During his Phase 2 transition, he destroys all of your cards on the board and turns them into gold nuggets. So you have to save powerful cards for the second phase, but you also need a variety in your deck to handle Phase 1 as well. So it wasn't just about building one powerful card, you needed a diverse deck. The third boss is the Trapper, and this one took me the longest to realize how to beat them. But once I realized, it became very clear, and I realized it was pretty obvious. They have these trap enemies that kill your cards and give you pelts. And once you beat Act 1, you get the opportunity to steal some of the Trapper's cards, but be warned, the rest remain and fight for them. At first, I always stole the most powerful cards until it dawned on me. I could just steal the first row and attack his hit points directly. Once I learned this, it was smooth sailing, but this is just another example of learning the strategy. Getting away from the bosses for a second, the thing that kept me so intrigued in this game, besides the mystery of the story and the environment, was the card interactions and secrets I kept finding. For example, if you have a Ringworm, a seemingly useless card with 0 attack and 1 defense, a card that you'd never think twice to actually use. But I learned that if you use it at a campfire, which is a place to power up cards' attack or health, surrounded by people that seemingly want to eat your cards, if you can get the people around the campfire to actually consume the Ringworm, they'll be gone for the rest of the run, allowing for many, many power-ups completely free of risk. And this was game-changing. This made the run significantly easier. It seemed broken. Like, why would the game allow for such a powerful secret to be found? And when I found this, I felt like I had really discovered something, almost like a cheat. Another secret ability I found, and it's actually one of my favorites, is the Ouroboros. It doesn't mention it on the card itself, and it's only obtainable after a boss, but it has a secret ability. It starts as a 2-cost card with 1 attack and 1 health, which doesn't seem worth it when compared to the other more powerful boss cards. But if you take it, you'll quickly learn why it's one of the most powerful cards in the game. Every time the Ouroboros is sacrificed or killed, it gains 1 attack and 1 health permanently. As in, the rest of the run, it will remain at its new power and health. This thing is awesome. My first instinct was to find a way to infinitely sacrifice it to make it way overpowered, but I actually wasn't able to during my first playthrough, although it did get quite strong from regular gameplay. This game has so much to talk about, including an ARG, but I won't really touch on that because I didn't actually experience it, and there's so many other better videos to break those down for you if you wanted to check it out. But in Act 1 alone, there's also so much to find, and so much I probably don't even know. Even though I've 100% of the game, there's still so much more I find, and I find online. There's still so much more I find online every time I check out an Inscryption video. Or, for example, there's this card, a card that mimics other cards until you play it. And then it turns into this card. You don't realize it when you pick it up, but sometimes the cards that you choose have glowing eyes or glowing parts of the card, and that means it's actually a mimic. There's the cat, which if sacrificed 9 times, it actually turns into something else, which I won't spoil. The child 13 can be sacrificed 13 times, and if you do that, it becomes a starving child. Run out of cards, starvation cards are there to kill you. Beat the game too quickly on one of your first attempts, the game kills you. I really mean it when I say there's so much to this game and so much to find. The list goes on, and we're just in Act 1. Oh right, the acts. Apparently when this game came out, reviewers and Let's Players were stopping it after Act 1, because they didn't know there was actually still 2/3 of the game left to play. Once you open the cuckoo clock and take the film roll, beat Leshy and take his picture, he becomes entrapped in a card and you've won. You did it, you beat Leshy. But it shows a glowing card for the New Game Plus option. When you continue the game, you're in a poorly lit empty room with nothing to do but turn around and look at the walls. It's not entirely clear that you need to exit the menu and start a new game, although it is heavily implied. This is yet another reason I love how this plays out. It's very unconventional. It almost hides the rest of the game from you. You start a new game and end up in Act 2. It's a top-down, isometric, almost Pokemon Blue or Red looking game, and the art style is completely changed. This time you get to choose a starting deck. There's options like beasts, bones, magic, and robots. I chose the beast deck because I was most familiar with it and I wanted to replace Leshy. This act plays similarly to the first act, but the style is completely overhauled. And this time you don't get squirrels, so the deck you chose plays like a different game. I had to take a step back and just take it all in. What was going on with this game? Oh, and something I forgot to mention, in between acts, you get live acted video lore about a man named the Lucky Carter. He opens up packs of cards on his stream and stumbles across some vintage Inscryption packs. Once he opens them, he finds out there's a set of coordinates written on one of the cards, to which he follows them, and eventually he finds a buried box. Inside that box is a floppy disk of the game Inscryption. And we hear the line, "All right, time to find out what's on this thing." The same line from the beginning of the game. Are we the Lucky Carter? Playing Inscryption on his computer? Is that what's been going on this whole time? I don't want to get too spoilery, even though I've spoiled quite a few things. There is a third act that is stronger than the second act in my opinion, but weaker than the first. And the story wraps up nicely, and you get more acted out scenes from our new friend the Lucky Carter. So I won't go into more detail about the later part of the game because I really think it needs to be appreciated and played through. This is a game that you actually need to experience, and hopefully if you made it this far, you'll stop watching and you'll just go play Inscryption because it's that worth it. There is one more thing I want to talk about, and that's Casey's mod. It's not an actual mod for the game, but it's built in. Once you beat the game, you can unlock this mode, which is essentially just Act 1, but with a few starter decks to choose from. And there's also challenge modifiers. There's even an achievement called Skullstorm for beating the challenge mode with every challenge activated, which I have done, which wasn't easy to say the least. Oh god, the bears. Anyway, I just felt like I wanted to touch on some of the reasons why I love this game so much. From the funny bits in the acting scenes, to the gameplay itself, to the art and the delivery, to the environment and the mood. I just loved every second of this game and was completely sucked into it. I wanted to find every little secret, and I wanted to do everything there was to do in this game. It was a magical experience and one I'll truly never forget. If you've not played this game, you need to. There's so much more to find than what I've talked about here, and it can't really be appreciated in a video, so yeah. Go out and try Inscryption. It'll get you hooked, I promise. Thanks for watching.